If we start off scripturally, we've been created for an abundant, victorious life. Why would we settle for anything less? So, the application of the word in our lives and the Bible, we've gone into so many verses over the last while with regards to nurturing and caring for yourself and instruction around that. But the statistics are that 80% of the general population, especially of the sort of 40 plus year olds, are not doing anything near enough with their nutrition and with their exercise to have a positive impact on the aging process. If the degeneration or the prolonging of a healthy lifespan.
Well, I think we can ask the question out today, and maybe we have some listeners who want to respond via WhatsApp. You can send us a message on 0713640376. Why do you find yourself falling short? And I think when we investigate this, you'll find that many of the programs that we've addressed have touched on these things. I've actually been very cognizant, very aware of this over the last couple of weeks in my life, as just the way that I've been eating. I found myself craving less and less sort of sweet stuff and, going to the shop and buying a packet of chips and that sort of thing, because there's been small changes that I've been trying to make, exercising a little bit more,
Excellent.
eating more healthy. But it's amazing how that craving starts to disappear, which touches on we did a whole show basically on this, and in how this is a reinforcement loop and how your system, the more you make good choices, the more good hormones get released. The more good hormones get released, the less you crave the bad stuff. And that really does happen. But you've got to somewhere just jump out of that bad habit first.
Yeah, I recently listened to something that they were talking about the statistics of people that end up being hospitalized. And they were talking about hospitalization in general, not necessarily an accident victim. But the vast majority of hospitalization, they reckon, could be radically decreased just by altering your nutrition and improving your nutrition and adding a healthy diet into. So people we've spoken about the three levers. So there you've got, it's what you eat, when you eat it, and how much you eat. And those are the three factors that you use to control your nutrition. And we've covered, the basics, but, around intermittent fasting, and it being such an efficient tool to use to get your nutrition under control. So if you know that your height to waist ratio is incorrect. In other words, if the circumference of your waist is more than half of your height, then you're ahead of schedule on eating. It's that simple. Your body is an incredible machine that's designed to take everything that you put in your mouth and to store it as energy for later use. And if you are overweight, you've got energy stores and reserves that your body, that you've introduced into your body over a period of time, that is being stored now as fat that's unnecessary, and you need to rectify that.
One of the things that I think can be a light bulb moment for us all sometimes is this moment that God speaks to Cain, and he says to him, I saw sin crouching at your door, and you were supposed to rule over it, but it ruled over you. This gets repeated in the New Testament. Paul touches on it as well. And it's this revelation, this realization, because Cain found himself in a place where he was justified because his flesh overpowered him. His desire to murder, his desire to be envious, his desire to be jealous was stronger than his own rulership, his own dominionship over his own body and flesh. And I think it's good for people to realize that your body is under your control. And if it feels like, like we mentioned cravings a little bit earlier on, if in fact my body is craving, in other words, I just feel like I have to have that hamburger, I have to have the pizza, I have to, that's not my body being in control. That's just me having fed my body all of that, and now my body responding to that. you can take control.
There's no self-mastery there. The spirit isn't in control of the body is in control. So you've got this tug of war between your spirit and your body for control over your soul, your will, your emotions, and the addictions like sugar is a very powerful addiction, and that creates all sorts of problems. So if you understand the role that insulin plays in your nutrition, just as an example, then it helps you to understand how to fuel for purpose. So let me just explain that a little. So if every single time you eat something that needs to be digested, you're producing insulin, and insulin is sort of directs where your energy that is converted from your food is stored, and it gets stored in one of three places: your liver, your muscles, and fat. And the energy that's stored in your liver is the most readily accessible. And what happens when you eat frequently is you never get to deplete that as a source of energy. So you are continually trying to add fuel and energy reserves to a fuel tank that is already full. And then depending on your muscle mass, there's some energy that's stored in your muscles, but the rest gets converted into fat. So if you're not expending energy and your liver is full to capacity, then everything that you eat gets stored as fat. So the more frequently you eat, and the over frequent production of insulin also leads to all sorts of other complications like diabetes and insulin resistance, and so we won't go into that. But in principle, we're eating way too much and way too often, and the result of that basically means that you are storing up the energy that that's been converted from what you've eaten, and in fat, and it's an awesome reserve for energy. And what I mean by that is, I think the record now for somebody being on a total fast, not water but food, is over 350 days. So, you can survive for an extremely long period of time on the fat reserves that you're in your body, and you can get to the point where you can draw off those fat reserves. But as a rule, most people's energy is coming in and out of their liver.
350 days, Alec. It's just make a note there. Don't try this at home. You don't have to start off there, but that is quite incredible, just to show what is possible.
Yeah, so there are tremendous health benefits from extending the period where you are not eating to 16 or more hours a day, and then reducing the period in which you do eat to a short period of time. So we're still talking about eating a healthy, nutritious meal, and not overdoing the quantity that you eat.
Yeah.
And if you do that, if you follow those basic, simple rules, you will make a tremendous improvement to your health.
Yeah, and it's not a legalistic, or neither is it a ritualistic or even religious thing, our nutrition. Romans 14:2 verse 3 says, one person believes he may eat anything, while the weak person eats only vegetables. Let not the one who eats despise the one who abstains, and let not the one who abstains pass judgment on the one who eats, for God has welcomed them. This is one angle from Paul, but I think it can be read together with something else that he says in 1 Corinthians 6, where he says, everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but I will not be mastered by anything. So it's this idea that, yes, sure, it's acceptable. We can do whatever we want. We understand that. But here's the question. Are we going to do what pulls out the potential that God has placed within us?
Well, that's the thing. We've been given this incredible body to live in, and it's an incredible machine, but we are not firing on all cylinders. So why would you not want to improve your health and wellness? And I think that's the question that's sort of tugging at me at the moment, is that through exercise and nutrition, you have got the most incredible control over your health and wellness, especially as you age. So why wouldn't you make use of that? And I mean, it's so simple to do, and the benefits are so profound, yet on average 80% of the population are not doing anything proactive about improving their health span and their old age.
A big part of this, Alec, touching on something a little bit else, though, is fear. And the fact that a lot of people, they might not realize this themselves, but actually there is a sense of fear. There's a sense of fear of failure, a sense of fear of not being good enough, maybe not knowing what to do. And this sort of unknown dimension of healthy eating or exercise or whatever it might be, or just general good habits, then keeps us from actually trying something new. So we'd rather settle for what we're familiar with than step into something unknown.
Yeah, I think in that regard, there's also a lack of knowledge that leads to the fear. So, for example, people, if I use a black mamba, a snake as an example, they know that it's venomous enough that if it bites you, you can die. So because of that, there's a general fear of snakes in general, when the vast majority of them are totally harmless and are not even venomous at all. So you because you don't know enough about the topic, you are fearful of it in general, instead of embracing it and learning more about it and then making decisions from that. So, the fuel for choice, or for purpose rather, is a concept that is very individualized, and you should know that if you're going to have a sedentary day, you need less energy than if you are going to have a very active day. Yet we eat the same regardless. And what you eat, so you can eat energy dense foods like oils and sugars and fats, which are very high in energy, and potentially low in nutritional value. And if you are then also having a sedentary day, then it's a recipe for getting fat and storing that energy unnecessarily. So, if you eat more healthy foods and vegetables, then you will over time improve your body composition and reduce the amount of fat that is stored. So, it's really not rocket science. It's quite straightforward.
But there's also a grouping of people, Alec, that I think are listening and, they're not looking to get all the information. If they're honest with themselves, they're rushed. Life's busy. They're going through a season of pressure or anxiety or stress, and that's why the takeaway shop with the 2-minute drive-through window is the best option, because you don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. You can simply move through it, and you can just carry on with your life. And it has to be said that everybody is not going to have this level of information. We obviously want everybody to, but everybody's not going to. But that's why, again, if you look at a biblical model, that's why we're a body. Everybody doesn't have to know everything and understand everything. But what you have to do then, if you don't know, is rely on somebody that knows. And there's a big case to be made for people to be more reliant on others to also help them on this journey.
Yeah, we've spoken about that having an accountability partner and somebody to walk the road with you. And there's so many nutritionists, and there's such a wealth of knowledge out there. I mean, you can type in intermittent fasting now into YouTube, and you'll have enough videos to watch for the next week. So there's an abundance of information, but we lack acting on that information. So if I use the Bible as an example, we know it's the Word of God, we know it's the truth, but we don't necessarily act on it. So until you experience it and until you act on it, it's meaningless. So the same with exercise and nutrition. So if you are not moving the average, if you are on average eating unhealthily, then expect your outcome to be based on that. So the same with exercise. I mean, if we know that resistance training, in other words, weight training, has a tremendous impact on your muscle mass. We know that your muscle mass is directly connected to your immune system. Yet we neglect. How many ladies do we know? I'm not picking on the ladies, but how many ladies do you know that are 50 plus that do any form of weight training? The best is probably carrying shopping bags, but that's not enough to impact your muscle mass, to positively impact your immune system, to help you ward off and fight against diseases. So we've got the tools. Our body is continually regenerating and growing and developing, but we direct that change. So you don't get overweight overnight, and you're certainly not going to lose all your weight overnight. And we definitely need to understand that it's through loving God first that you can then love yourself and nurture and cherish yourself in order for you to be useful and helpful and to love others.
Also, people need to challenge their misconceptions. It's very easy to put yourself in a bubble and think, well, everything I know now is the truth. We see even within the realm of experts, information changing. Things
Sure.
we thought we should eat 10 years ago, we now know we shouldn't eat. And things we loved to eat and thought were really healthy, now we know is not healthy at all. And yet you have people who are not even a part of that scientific community who still believe the things they learned 30 years ago. And so we have to deal with misinformation as well. Like you said, women don't weight train because they think it's going to make them bulky and look big, and when really it has the opposite effect. It helps with weight loss and tones you down, etc. And there's a lot of things like that. It's about food, about nutrition, about sleep. There's a lot of misinformation as well.
Yeah, just as an example, you were talking about them looking bulky and muscular. We're not talking about somebody that's trying to change their physique and become a bodybuilder. So from a health and wellness point of view, you only need to do 3 half-an-hour sessions of weight training a week to get a significant benefit from it. And that's nowhere near enough for you to end up looking, muscle bound, if I can put it that way. I mean, that takes a huge amount of time and effort and dedication. And those athletes that are training for that, they have to put in so much effort to get there. There's nothing to concern yourself around that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of these things that we have misconceptions about, and it goes in different ways. Also, you read one post, that says carbs are bad these days, banting, and all of these things are the trends. And sure, that's okay. But then you also get people that, without understanding how that works, they just simply cut out, 99 different foods and then end up not knowing what to eat.
Yeah, I think, that simplistically, you're wanting to increase the amount of vegetables that you're eating. You're wanting to decrease the processed foods that you're eating. You want to increase the amount of protein that you're eating, because if you don't have sufficient protein, the building blocks for muscle generation aren't there. So in general, as people age, they don't eat enough protein, and they eat more and more refined foods that have been processed, and they've got all sorts of unnatural substances in there that are not good for you. So it's not a rocket science, cut out, reduce your sugar, reduce the unhealthy foods, increase the healthy foods, reduce the frequency with which you eat, and you will already have made a tremendous impact on your health.
Yeah, the average American consumes 17 teaspoons of sugar every day. That's the average consumption. So there's a lot to cut away for us. Most of us have, if you can just reduce those 17 teaspoons, that's 70 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
If you can reduce that to 35 in a day, you'll see massive results already.
Do yourself a favor. Go and look at all the refined foods that we're talking about that you are eating and buying. Have a look at the ingredients on the box or on the packaging, and you will immediately see how much sugar is hidden in that. So even in your salty foods and snacks, sugar is a major ingredient, because even if you don't taste it in your mouth, once it hits your stomach, it signals your brain and tells you that you need more of it, and this is pleasurable, and etc. So, we need to wise up to what we're eating, and we also need to eat based on what the outcome is we want out of our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's it helps to read, it helps to know, it helps to understand. I hope that you've learned something from our conversation today. Alec, in closing, I read the story. It's a true story about a little mint sweet that we all sometimes buy at the shop and eat. It's very nice. We won't mention any names. But there was a case about them, because it's a zero sugar, or it's a sugar-free sweetie that you're eating, but it's because it's measured by sweet. Actually, this thing's like 40% sugar, but there's some legislation that says, if it's less than 0.5 grams of sugar, for instance, then you can say it's zero sugar. But it's just less than that because it's so small. And if you end up eating the whole pack, you're eating a 50% sugar thing. So it helps to focus and to look and to ask some tough questions about some of the things that you're consuming.
Yeah. No, there's all sorts of stories like that about people camouflaging and promoting their brand name of the company, which is named differently to the product that they are actually giving you to eat. So again, we won't go into any names there, but I think the message we want to get across is, if you can be more active, go and experiment, find something new, join a group activity, get involved with ladies with boot camp or some other functional form of training, CrossFit. Just go. Those communities are very welcoming, and you will really enjoy it. And then you are mutually accountable. Make things easy for yourself. Get active and improve your diet, and it will most certainly improve your health span.
Well, a big thanks to Alec Avierinos, joins us again today. Thanks so much, Alec.
It's a pleasure.
Do
Great
so
to be here.
Next week again. We'll talk health and wellness and all things surrounding that again next week. If you've got questions about health and wellness, reach out to us on 071 364 0376. We'll pass that along to Alec. Also, you can visit his website, almightywarrior.me. You've got the show notes available there, lots of information, courses that you can do. You can find out a whole lot more, almightywarrior.me.